My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, and that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. I love art. I love going to visit art museums. It's what I studied in school. And thankfully, I'm here in New York City where we have many excellent museums, especially the Metropolitan and the MoMA, two very large museums that both have good collections of Impressionist art, which is one of my favorite styles of painting, Impressionism. Another great collection is in Chicago at the Art Institute, and of course in France, where it originated. Impressionism was an art movement in France in the late 1800s, and the painters in that movement emphasized our perception of light and color. They were very interested and concerned with how we see, how we perceive light. And these artists marveled at how we perceive our impression of things, the impressions made on our eyes, which we make sense of. And so they focused very much on the dynamic of light and color and how our eyes are able to perceive light and intuit color. And even when things are blurry, our eyes can kind of make sense of them. And so a lot of paintings in the Impressionist period will be kind of the bare impression of the form, the essence of what we see. And artists spent a lot of time observing. I think one of the most famous Impressionists is Claude Monet, who had the habit of studying the same subject over many, many days, many months, so that he could see that subject over and over with different kinds of light. So the changing light within the day, at dawn or dusk, or in the middle of the day, and the changing light of the seasons from summer to fall to winter to spring. And he would look at the same subject over and over. I'm sure you've heard of some of these series. There's the haystack series, there are the lily pads, there's of course the facade of the Rouen Cathedral, which Monet made 30 different paintings of. And it's amazing to see that facade of the cathedral, all the different depictions that he made side by side. Sometimes the cathedral is like ablaze with bright oranges and red at the end of the day when the sun is setting. Other times the cathedral looks like very starkly white because the sun is at its apex in the sky. It's an amazing thing, the way that we see and the wonder of all the things that we see and how the light changes this and the beauty of everything that we can perceive with our eyes. And this may seem a little silly, Jesus, but in our time of prayer, we can thank you for things like this. Lord, thank you for my eyesight, for those of us that can see. Thank you for allowing me the gift of sight to take in every day color and light and beauty. Help me not to take this for granted or to underestimate it, because today in the gospel we're presented with someone who is blind, someone who is unable to see at all. And perhaps there are people here in our family of 10 Minutes with Jesus who are blind. And of course, I don't know what that's like, but I can imagine that it's very different. And Bartimaeus, his whole life, has not seen. He's living in a kind of darkness, a physical darkness. We read, "They came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." And then we know that the crowd began to kind of hush Bartimaeus, saying, "Don't bother the master." But Bartimaeus cried out all the more. Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." The blind man got up and he ran towards Jesus, throwing off his cloak. Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you? What would you have me do for you?" The blind man said in reply, "Lord, that I may see." Domine ut vidiam, Lord, that I may see. Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately, Bartimaeus regained his sight and followed him on the way. We read this every year, perhaps several times a year, and so we're a little used to the story. And I think it's helpful to kind of step back and say, wait a minute, this man, Bartimaeus, was in complete darkness physically, and from one moment to the next, through the words of Jesus, saying, "Go, your faith has made you well," all of a sudden the scales fall from Bartimaeus' eyes and he sees for the first time. What would that have been like? All the beauty, all the color and light that Bartimaeus would have experienced in that moment. Of course, the first thing that he would have seen, Jesus, is your face, the most beautiful thing of all. And how, from that day onward, Bartimaeus would have gradually, in a sense, learned to see things well. His vision would have improved over time. This is a spiritual reality as well. We don't just see physically with our eyes, but we see with the eyes of our soul. And while many of us may have healthy eyesight, it could be that interiorly in our soul, we are blind or we are blinded, or we have these elements that we're not seeing. Perhaps it's that we're seeing everything gray, or we're seeing everything red in our anger, or we're seeing everything blue in our sadness. And this is a problem, right? Our vision can be impaired. Our vision can be totally blinded by sin or impurity. We can think of the Beatitudes where you, Jesus, say, "Blessed are the pure of heart, for they shall see God." Are we seeing God? Are we seeing spiritually? Do we have clear vision? What is it that perhaps is blinding us? What is it that is narrowing our vision? You know, we speak about having tunnel vision, and sometimes this is the case. We can obsess over things, and we can become very small-hearted, have like a very narrow view, a very narrow spectrum. How can we expand our view once again? Well, like Bartimaeus, we turn to you, Jesus, and we say, "Lord, have mercy on me. Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." What a beautiful prayer. That is perhaps one of the prayers par excellence that has been recommended throughout the Christian ages. Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me, a sinner. Note that in the Greek, in this scene, Bartimaeus says, "Eleison me, eleison me, have mercy on me," which will sound very familiar to us from the Mass, where at the beginning of the Mass, in the penitential rite, we say, "Kyrie eleison," Lord, have mercy. Well, in doing so, in turning to you, Jesus, and humbly asking for your mercy, for your forgiveness, hopefully the scales will fall from our eyes as well. Perhaps we need to ask forgiveness to Jesus for something that we have done, or we need to ask forgiveness to somebody else. And that this will allow us to see things once again in all of their beauty, in all of their color, in all of their dimension. Because Jesus, you want us to see things as you see them. You want us to see with all the incredible spiritual beauty of your love. And this we do through purification, through this same action that Bartimaeus takes, calling out to Jesus, listening to him, running to him, throwing off our cloak, and asking for what we need. We can finish by asking Our Lady, who was beautiful, and Jesus must have marveled at her beauty. We can ask her that we might be able to see more clearly, that she might purify the eyes of our soul. And like the Impressionist painters, we can come away with a greater appreciation for all of the beauty, both physical and spiritual, that Jesus wants to show us. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations that you've communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help in putting them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.